everyone, it's Sherry Vegas here, and in this candle making tutorial I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can create an ombre effect candle. To create this ombre style candle, the first thing I'm going to do is melt down some wax. Now I'm using crystallized palm wax today because it's the wax I had on hand, but you can use whatever wax you want to use for this particular technique. If you've never worked with this particular wax before, it does need to be melted and poured at a lot hotter temperature than, say, a soy wax would. Soy waxes normally need to be melted about 80 and then poured around 60. With a crystallized palm wax, it does need to be melted around 90 to 100 and then poured around 80 to 90. If it's poured too cold, it won't actually crystallize. But the reason why I do like to use this wax is because it does leave a really beautiful crystal pattern, like the name says. Now I've just measured out my fragrance to match the amount of wax I'm using, and I'm just doing a 6% fragrance load. And I'm also getting my container ready. So this is for my pillar candle and it's a plastic container. I like to use these ones just because it makes life so much easier when you're doing any sort of special techniques, when you are creating some cool effects, because I can see what the candle will look like. I do have some metal pillar candle containers, but because I can't see through them, it makes life a little bit harder. So I do recommend getting these clear ones when you are doing this technique. Now for this first one, I melted my wax down and I added my fragrance in, mixed that up and poured it into my pillar candle container around 98 degrees. Then I waited for my wax to cool down to around 70 before adding my color in. Now for this ombre effect, you do need to use liquid dyes. Dye chips and dye waxes will not work. I'm using a metal skewer and I've just put the smallest amount of this liquid dye. This is a liquid dye concentrate from Aussie Candle Supplies. You can find them other places, but it's super strong. You can see that tiny amount of a liquid dye is really spreading out and coloring my candle. And all I'm doing is just adding it into the very top of the candle and just giving it a little mix in, and you'll notice that it will start to slowly fade down to the bottom, which creates that really cool ombre effect. Now, less is more, particularly if you are using a really strong candle dye, because this is a concentrate, the smallest amount will go such a long way. And the reason why you do an ombre effect like this is because if you do your candle in layers, so you do 3 different colors to create that ombre effect, your light tone, your mid-tone, and a dark tone, when you do pour them separately, you actually get a candle that looks like this. So you can see the lines where I have poured each layer. So that's why when you do want to do an ombre effect where you want the color to really fade and you don't want to see the clear layers, this is the technique that you use. Now, because this was the first time I've ever used the crystallized palm wax for this particular technique, I added my color in around 70 because this is a wax that does need to be a lot hotter to be poured for it to crystallize, but it was a little bit too soon and you can see the color went the whole way down and I didn't really get a super ombre effect. I just ended up getting a blue candle. So for this next one, I've poured my crystallized palm wax at the correct temperature, but I've let it cool down to 50, and this is normally the temperature I do for soy wax. So this time it's cooled down around 50 before I've added the color in, and this worked a lot better. Just because the wax is starting to cool, it's already starting to set at the bottom of the candle, and so that way the dye doesn't have all of that time to fully sink the whole way down. It's going to stay mostly at the top of the candle where I've added it in, so that's going to create that really good ombre effect. Then I waited for my candle to fully cure and cool down before I demolded it, and you can see that I got a really beautiful ombre effect, and it is so incredibly simple to do. You just need to make sure that you add your color in only a little amount using a liquid dye, and make sure you do it at the correct temperature, and you're going to get a perfect ombre looking candle every single time. And I also did this in a few other different shapes of candles. So I've got this tall one that I did as well, and you can see it looks great no matter what sort of mold that you use. And if you enjoyed this video and got some benefit, please give it a big thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, please do subscribe as I post new videos every single week. And I have a full playlist that I'll link on all different types of candles that you can make. So definitely go and check that out if you are especially new into candle making. But thank you so much for watching.